all my years in the pit, I have climbed to the top. The pit is a fighting arena, a place where anyone is able to rise from a high position. I'm known as Beth the Brute, the champion of the pit. You get two kinds of people who are part of the pit. The first kind are volunteers seeking to make something of their lives. The others are criminals, thieves, rapists, and military deserters who are sent here. That's the sentence in the realm. No death sentence, although most die in our tournaments. A death sentence would be quick. In tournaments, it's always about putting on a show. I have seen deaths drawn out, slow and agonizing. The pit is known as a place of death. Not many people die. We hold a tournament once a year and during the king's events. There are times people die. We fight until death or when somebody surrenders. Each tournament we have a guest of honor. If someone surrenders, then the guest gets to decide if they should live or die, and how they die. The rest of the year is training, so not much death as most think. When I was little, my mother used to tell me and my siblings all about the dead night, when days are black as night, creatures coming out of the shadows snatching the bad children in their sleep. All make-believe to scare children to behave. Might have scared my siblings, but it never scared me. It inspired me. I always wanted to defeat those creatures and save the realm. I began fighting my brothers. They were older, so they always won. I was proud of my beatings. It meant every time I was getting stronger, but it never prepared me for the training in the pit. I started off as a small runt in the pit. I got beaten down a lot during training. I was determined not to die. Instead of dreading training, I used it to my advantage. I might have not been the biggest or strongest person there, but I learned how to use that against them. Over time, I became close to my fellow recruits. There was Boren, a man well past his time, never held a sword in his life. He claims his wife accused him of rape. That got him a one-way ticket to the pit. He's a pleasant guy, so I believe him. Isabel was a young girl, also sent to the pit. Parents died, leaving her to raise her 1-year-old brother in the streets, left him in the hands of another orphan as she went to steal food. She got caught and has never seen her brother since. Finally, there was Jaron, a skilled warrior for the king's army. He chose to come to join the Gladiators. He always wanted to be a king's guard to have his name go down in history. He was told by the captain of the King's Guard that he would never be one of them, claiming he has a mouth on him that is pissing off his fellow soldiers. The King's Guard need to be united as one with a single goal. Jaron left the army and rode straight to the pit, the only place in the realm left for him to go down in history, hoping one day to be the chief. We continued our training together, spotting each other's weaknesses and helping to improve. It was not long before Jaron's mouth got him in trouble, pissing off another recruit named Robin. Pointing out his lips should be on a duck. Turns out Robin's quick to get angry. Other gladiators had to drag Robin away as he screamed all the horrible things hell due to Jaron. Me, Isabel, and Boren were terrified. Not Jaron. To him it was as if nothing had happened. We kept training for the tournament, making sure Jaron stayed away from the wrong people. Your very first tournament is a huge event for the recruits. If you survived, you become a gladiator. Each of us got to choose our weapons and armor. Some prefer a huge shield for protection, light leather arm for speed, an axe, a sword. We had everything possible you could imagine. I chose twin swords. For my first tournament, the guest of honor was Greatest Stormstone, Lord of the Storm's Pillar and House Stormstone. His eldest recently tried to murder him, wanting to rule. Greatest had survived the attack, taking a knife to the knee, causing him to limp around. From that point, he was never the same. His heart turned cruel. He took us 4 children up to the very top of the castle so they could witness Greatest throw his eldest over the edge. I had 3 fights. The first was up against another new recruit, Luke. Arrived the same time I did, but we never talked. He stuck to a spear and a net for his weapons. I never took him seriously during training. Luke managed to trap me with the net and disarmed me. As I clawed my way free, I surrendered, knowing that was my only way to survive. Gladiators instructed us to remain in the pit while his men took my weapons. Once his men were out of the pit, Gladiators announced our second fight was against the lion, would begin immediately. With me remaining in the pit unarmed until the fight was over, I did not want to die. I managed to convince Luke the only way to survive is by working together. And we did. I got the lion to feast on Luke as I crushed his spear through the lion's skull and into Luke's torn guts. And just like that, I had completed my first 2 fights. The third one was the lowest risk of death. The third fight was between all the remaining recruits. A ring was drawn out in the sand of the arena. Last person to stay in the ring was seen as the strongest recruit, receiving all kinds of perks as a gladiator. There were 16 of us in total, all ready to become a gladiator when Gladiators rose up to make an announcement, stating that 16 of us would not become gladiators. He wanted a perfect dozen. 4 of us will be killed, either in the pit or those who leave the ring first. I looked over to see the horror on Boren and Isabel's face. It didn't bother Jaron. He already knew he wouldn't die. I will always remember the silence as everyone listened to Gladiators' orders as he played with his emerald necklace. From the bottom of Gladiators' lungs came the last words of any of us wanted to hear, "You may die." I have kept hold of Luke's net and spear, seeing what they could do to an opponent. I heard the scream before he reached me. What is the point in a war cry if you lose the elements in surprise? He swung his great axe to his right, exposing his left, allowing the tip of my spear to slice his armpit. Small, precise cuts, that is all you need. The more he tried swinging his axe, the more blood poured down in his side. The weaker he got, unable to lift his great axe. Just before I could finish him, another recruit attacked me. Leo or Leos, one of them. I knew his fighting, knew he could kill me. I kept dodging out of his path until I managed to trip him up and shoved him down onto my precious victim. I left them punching each other in the dirt like a couple of drunks. I scanned around the circle, Isabel struggling to fight off an attacker as another stabbed her in the back, leaving her on the ground bleeding out in the sand. Boren managing to hold his own, near the edge for a quick escape. Suddenly, an agonizing pain pierced my ankle, shooting up my leg, and sand crashing against my face. I rolled over to see blood dropping from Robin's duck-like lips. He lifted his bloody sword, ready to strike, when a sword silently went through Robin's neck. His body collapsed, head rolling away to Jaron's feet. Jaron lifted me onto his shoulder and threw me out of the circle. Jaron won that day, but I survived. Once my ankle healed, I got back to training a few years later. I'd become the champion of the pit, Beth the Brute. Within a moon of being champion, a member of the King's Guard arrived at the pit. A monstrous war was on the horizon. The king needed every able fighter to defend the realm. None of us had a choice. We all had to fight and probably die. Might be my chance to save the realm. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and click subscribe for new content. This was performed by me, Rayra Convallaria, and my links are in the description. So, bye!